Hey guys, thanks for clicking on my video. Today I'm going to be building and painting some blood knights. And I'll be showing you a simple way of doing non-metallic metal with an airbrush. Let's take a look at what's inside the box. There's 5 knights with a variety of different heads, some helmeted and some not. I glued them together with plastic glue and made sure to file down the mold lines as I went along. Here's what they look like all made up. I left the banner off because I thought it would be easier to paint that separately. Before I prime them, I am going to stick some stuff to the bases. That way they can all get sprayed at the same time. I'm using Epoxy Sculpt, which is a 2-part epoxy clay, similar to green stuff. You just mix it in equal parts and it hardens up in a few hours. I'm just sticking parts to the base and pushing in some bits and bobs, like skulls and leftover weapons from other kits. I want it to look like debris from a battlefield. I'm also pushing in bits of sand and small stones to save me having to glue those on later with PVA. It's time to get them primed. I'll be using an airbrush throughout the video. If you don't have one, you can follow my tutorial on how to paint grimdark black knights, which are quite similar to these, but it's easy enough to replicate this technique with cans of spray primer. It's not absolutely essential to have an airbrush for this process anyway, because it will mostly be dry brushes and washes with a paintbrush. Regardless of what you're using, you'll need to first get them completely black and then highlight with white to create the first layer of contrast. With an airbrush you get a really nice smooth gradient right from the beginning, so I do encourage you to pick up a cheap one from Amazon like I did, if you can. For the next step I'm starting to pick out more highlights on the model by dry brushing white. This is just to make the highlights even more bold. For the next step I wanted to start adding some colour, so I used a mix of blood red and black Vallejo game colour, thinned it down with Vallejo matte medium and some airbrush thinner, and then added some Liquitex crimson ink to give it some vibrancy. I always go for the Vallejo game colour over the ready-made airbrush stuff, just because I feel like you get more pigment for your money if you buy the regular game colour and thin it out yourself. As you can see, the airbrush really allows you to apply a nice thin even coat, and it's already giving a nice non-metallic metal effect. Now I'm going back in with my white and doing some more dry brushing over the skin and anything else that's not red. You can see the difference here between the left and right model. I also started selectively picking out some bits with my small pointy brush, like the muscles here on the legs. Next thing I went back to the armour and did some dry brushing with Vallejo Bloody Red to add some depth to the colour. On the left here is with and the right is without. Now I want to start distinguishing the bits of fabric and chainmail from the armour, so I'm going in with a dark wash, which I made with Liquitex crimson and black inks, mixed with some Liquitex matte medium and water. Here on the left you can see 3 layers of the dark wash over the material. Now I'm going to use the same red mix that I sprayed initially on the bases, pooling it like blood. I also whacked on some of the dark wash that I'd made as well. Then once that was dry, I just airbrushed some black around the bases to tidy them up a little bit. Before I show you the models in full, I'll just quickly show you what I did to the banner. I went in with my same dark wash and did a few layers over the bits I wanted to be black. So here's where it was, just with the primer and the spraying with the airbrush, and here it is with more detail picked out. Then I went in with some bone white, slightly diluted, to pick out some more detail. I also used the bone white to highlight the high points of the flag, to simulate the light hitting the folds, and did the same with some undiluted bloody red. And once again, here's a before and after. You can just keep going in the creases with your dark wash until you get the desired contrast. So let me just stick this on and I'll show you what the models look like. And there's a quick and easy way to do non-metallic metal with an airbrush. I know it can be very annoying when you're starting out, and all the tutorials have airbrushes. It's not an essential if you're just starting out painting, but I have really enjoyed using it. It just gives such a fine, smooth gradient to all the shading that you'd have to work quite a lot harder with a brush to achieve. But if you're not interested in the airbrush, please do check out my Grim Dark Black Night tutorial for a different kind of style. Let me know in the comments below if you think you're going to get an airbrush now. Give me a like if you liked it, and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.